Hello, I'm Ollie. I make simple outdoors and travel videos here on this channel. I've been doing hiking, traveling, and doing side projects here and there for the last couple of years now, and in this video I'd like to share with you some of my tools and processes, my gear list, my settings, and so on, in order to help you get started on your filmmaking journey as well. This video is going to be part of my beginner's guide series where I break down the gear, planning, filming, and editing of your outdoors and travel content. Anyway, let's dive in. So the process usually starts with one simple question. Where on this beautiful green earth do you want to go? If you're new to all this, it's best to choose an easy and accessible hike to start with. And this is where your trail apps are going to be coming in handy to help you plan your first hiking adventure. I use All Trails and Commute sometimes, and these apps are going to give you insight on how the trail might look with photos, the topography, how long it is, and how difficult and challenging the terrain might be, so that you can determine whether this hike is right for your fitness level. Remember, you don't have to go overboard on your first hike. It doesn't have to be like the grandest hike in the world to start with. The goal is to just get outdoors and see if you enjoy the process of filming, and just to also be outdoors and enjoy the hike. When I'm doing my research on the trails, I like to take note of the different kind of terrain on the trail and break down each type of terrain into sections, so that way I can treat these sections as scenes when I come to film the hike. So for example, if I know that this section of the trail is going to be gravel path and the scenery is not going to be changing that much, I would grab me entering the trail, maybe something wide. I would grab a supporting shot, maybe something mid-range, of me moving through the terrain from a different angle. Then maybe 3 to 4 close-up shots or detailed shots of what I can see, just to really draw the audience into the hike with you. If there's nothing else that particularly jumps out that is interesting or worthwhile filming, then I wouldn't film anything else along this section of terrain until I reach the end of it, where I would be entering a new scene. And by doing this, I know that I would have grabbed the shots that I needed in order to build a scene when I go to edit later for this section of the terrain. Now, I find that this is going to be really helpful for beginners because it's going to help you save so much time when you're out there filming. And by saving time, it's going to give you the time back to actually enjoy the hike and be present in the hike as well. Now, when you're filming yourself, it's going to be really tempting to be the star of your own show and get shots of just you walking through the trail all the time. Don't do that. You're going to want to mix in a variety of wide shots, medium shots, and close-up shots. As a rule of thumb, your wide shots are going to establish where you are and give your audience the lay of the lands. Your medium shots, that's your torso upwards, is going to help draw your audience into your subject. It's going to show a little bit more detail, body language, emotions, and help move the story along. And your close-up shots, or what I like to call sensory shots, are going to draw the audience into the subject or your scenery and really give them the sense of being on location with you. Having a variety of shots is going to give a lot of depth to your video, and it's going to give you a lot to edit and play around with when you chop and change things around later. So onto camera gear. So this is a really big question, and one I might do a separate video to deep dive into, just to cover what you might need gear-wise to get started as an adventure filmmaker. For the purpose of keeping this video quite short though, I'm going to just give some recommendations based on a few categories. For those of you who are going to dive straight first into the latest and greatest, and money and budget isn't really a thing for you, then I would go with any of the hybrid full-frame camera bodies from Sony, and that's going to be your A7 III, A7C, which is a compact version of that, A7 IV, A7S III, and the ZVE1, and those are going to be your full-frame hybrid shooters, which means they're going to be great at both photos and videos, and they're going to have all the bells and whistles because they are considered professional cameras. And for those of you looking for something a little bit more wallet friendly, it doesn't have to have all the professional features in the world, but still have enough to give you room to grow into as a photographer or as a filmmaker, I'd look at their APS-C ranges, and this is going to be your kind of like smaller bodied cameras. Anything from the A6300 up to their latest A6700 is going to perform just fine for videos and photos, and they're going to have just enough features for you to really dive into learning filmmaking and photography. And for those of you who aren't fussed at all about having professional features on your camera and just want something light, compact to carry around on your adventures, then you'd be looking at a compact bodied camera. And this is going to be your ZV-1 series from Sony, and these are going to range from around £500 to £870, I believe. But of course, you can always get them cheaper used. But if you're looking at compact cameras, then you might even go down the action camera route and maybe picking up a DJI Action 4 or a GoPro. And this is just going to give you more stability right out of the camera, because I don't believe the compact cameras have inbuilt stability. Now, of course, you'll be giving up some features like the dual card slots, some of the image quality, smaller sensors, so your low light performance might not do as well. But unless you're pixel peeping and shooting at nighttime all the time, I don't think that's going to matter in the long run. And I would argue that storytelling and content will matter more than how good your image looks. Now, I bring size into this because weight really matters when it comes to filming gear when you're hiking. Obviously, when you have a huge camera body and a huge lens to go along with that, then having to carry that around, you're really going to feel the weight when you're going long distances. And having a heavier gear to lug around is really going to impact your experience of the hike, as well as the experience that you have filming this hike. I will quickly run through my filming gear. My full kit consists of the Sony a7 IV, which I use both for photography and filming. I only have one lens, it's the 24-70 Sigma Art lens. I feel this lens gives me enough range between wide shots and close-up shots without needing to bring another one. However, this lens in particular is very, very heavy. On long hikes, it can be a pain in the butt to carry around. So I am looking to change that up in the future, potentially going with the 24-105 or the 20-40 with Tamron. I also shoot with my phone, the Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV. I shoot with this when I don't want to carry a huge camera with me, but I still want to be able to get that high quality shot that I can later seamlessly integrate with shots from my a7 IV. If you don't know already, this phone is phenomenal at capturing videos. If you want to see example footage, I have a bunch of videos using this phone. You can check my Thailand videos, my Dubai one, and a bunch of other videos I have in my channel. They will be labeled with Xperia in the title. And then just on the side, I've also picked up a DJI Action 4. I used this recently in one of my camping videos, and I really enjoy how lightweight it is, and the image quality out of this thing is fantastic. And I also really like that it blends in with my Mavic 3 footage as well. And then lastly, I use the DJI Mavic 3 for my drone. And the reason that I'm sticking with the Mavic 3 and not going with the mini series is just a personal thing. I just feel like when I'm out hiking in a variety of terrains, the weather can be really turbulent. So I needed a drone that's going to have a bit of weight and a bit of meat to it. So when I have it up in super strong winds, it's not going to fly away from me and it's not going to get battered around and potentially crash. And with the gear recommendations and my gear out of the way, I feel like I have to say this to try and protect your wallet. A lot of people get caught up in needing to have the latest and greatest gear out there, thinking that it's going to make their footage and their work like 100 times better. But expensive gear is not going to produce quality content if you don't know how to use it. Now, if I could recommend one thing that you should invest in when it comes to gear, it would be a decent audio system. Get something that's going to be compatible with your phone or something that's going to be compatible with whatever camera you're using. Invest in a decent mic and your video production quality will increase by 10-fold. That is a scientific number, don't quote me on that. But sound is half of the experience, especially for outdoor content. By capturing ambient sound straight from your hike and then working with that in the edits, you're going to give a lot of texture and substance to your video. Now for my camera settings, it depends on what camera you're using. Personally, with the a7 IV, I like the image quality out of the camera already, so I don't really tweak anything that much. I shoot everything in manual settings. I sometimes do use picture profiles, but I don't do anything crazy. I basically just use picture profile 10 out of the a7 IV, and I don't do any tweaks to that. I just use that because it has slightly softer colors. But most of the time, I feel like the standard picture profile is enough, especially for outdoor content. I want to capture things as realistic as possible. I'm not trying to portray an unrealistic view of the place that I went to, so most of the time I'm just trying to keep things looking as correct as possible. I will occasionally do some minor color correction, tweaking the brightness and things like that, but I don't really do like professional level color grading because I don't know how to, sadly. No, but it's mostly just to keep things looking how they looked at the time. Once I'm back in my edit chair, I pretty much just scrub through a lot of my footage, and at this point I'm doing a really rough cut edit and I'm marking my in and out points on the sections of the shots that I like to use, and then I drop that into the timeline. At this point I'm not doing any fine tuning or anything like that. I'm not putting music in. It's really just putting the majority of the story into the timeline. There isn't really a hard rule on how short or long a clip should be, but a general rule of thumb that I like to use is if a clip is particularly wide, then I like to give the audience a bit more time to process that view. And for mid shots and close-up shots, it can be a lot shorter, maybe a few seconds, because your brain can already recognize what you're looking at pretty much straight away. After everything is cut and ready to go in the timeline, I like to spend a good amount of time looking for the music that I'd like to use with my video. I always try to pick something that speaks to how the hike felt in the moment. A lot of my music preference is either classical or ambient sounds of varying tempos. I usually prefer to keep things relaxed for the most part because that's usually how I feel on the hike. And a lot of my inspiration is drawn from childhood games like The Legend of Zelda, Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy, or films like The Lord of the Rings. I feel like this is probably a really personal choice, so just pick something that kind of fits with your vibes and the story that you're trying to tell. Now, as a quick tip, putting together a good edit, you need to be prepared to drop some shots. Every shot should have a purpose to move your story along. Now, after you've put together what you think is your last edit, it's a good idea to put the project down for a couple of hours, walk away, and then come back and rewatch before you upload. And this is essentially to clear your palette. So when you come back to watch it again, you can pick up on poor editing choices that you've made. Maybe there's like a mistake in the pacing somewhere, and that way you can make your final touches before you upload to YouTube or wherever it is you want to upload to. So those are all the quick tips that I have. I will do a deep dive on a few of these topics in my future videos, specifically for camera gear, for outdoor filming. So keep an eye out on those. If you find it helpful, then thank goodness. And if not, then I'm sorry. Don't know what to say. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time. Stay safe on the trail, and I hope to see you out there.